Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Dylan Talk Sports. My name is Dylan. In today's video, what I'm going to be discussing is we're going to be talking about Caleb Williams and where he should play football when he gets into the NFL. There's been talks about the Chicago Bears if they're going to trade the #1 overall pick. Obviously, Caleb Williams is going to go #1 overall no matter who has that pick. So the question to kind of come down to is the Chicago Bears are going to move on from Justin Fields and take Caleb Williams, or are they going to keep Justin Fields and trade the #1 pick away? And then the big question then comes to who could take it. The biggest rumor that I've heard around the league is that the Washington Commanders are the team that's going to take Caleb Williams. A couple of the, I guess you could say, ideal reasonings why is because they have the offensive coordinator. Cliff Kingsbury has now been hired to be the offensive coordinator of Washington. He was Caleb Williams' quarterback coach for the 2 years he was there at USC. And the other little nugget is that Caleb Williams is actually from the DC area. But this goes so much more deeper than that. And what I'm going to be doing in this video is, like I said, I'm going to be going through and giving you guys my reasoning as to why he should want to go to Washington so damn bad and not Chicago. There's been some people talking about reasonings as to why he's going to go to Chicago and why he has no choice but to go to Chicago if Chicago wants him. I'm going to tell you why exactly he can get to Washington, how he can get to Washington, and the reasonings why he would succeed so much better in Washington versus where if he went to Chicago, his career would die just as fast as Justin Fields. So without further ado, if you're going to enjoy it, as always, make sure you go and drop a like on today's video. Be very much appreciated if you do so. But without further ado, let's get into it. So first up, like I said, he has the choice of either the Chicago Bears or the Washington Commanders. Those are kind of the two main teams. Obviously, we could see another team possibly trading up to the #1 overall pick. You could possibly get like a Vegas, maybe a Denver, or God knows who, somebody that's just willing to risk it all and put all their nuggets into the table and just go all in on Caleb Williams. But let me go ahead and start off with the reasons why he should not want to go to Chicago. Well, let's kind of look at Justin Fields' career so far. Justin Fields, when he got there, they said, we're going to build an offensive line around you. We're going to get you receivers. We're going to make this work for you. And what have they done? All these years going back decades, and I mean decades, centuries plus, they have never had a good quarterback in Chicago. The best quarterback they've ever had was Jay Cutler. Let that sink in for a second. You finally get a star. Justin Fields could have been a star for you guys. If he would have went anywhere else, I think he would have been so much better of a quarterback anywhere else other than Chicago. He goes to Chicago, and I'm thinking to myself, as an Ohio State fan, I was rooting for him, and I'm thinking, okay, Justin, don't let us down. I know you can do it there. And what happens? He goes there. Offensive line is nowhere to be seen. He's running for his life. Receivers are nowhere to be found. He had Allen Robinson, was kind of like supposed to be the guy that we thought maybe Justin Fields would have. That didn't pan out. Allen Robinson has been in the Rams and now somewhere else, I think. Over the years, they've had him, Darnell Mooney. They just got DJ Moore. So the pieces are kind of there. They're starting to develop and being better targets for Justin Fields. They've kind of gotten a run game going. The defense has gotten better. The main issue that does come down to Chicago is coaching. The offensive coordinator they had there for the past few years, I forget his name, but he was just not. He was up on the level with Matt Canada with being horrible. And when I say horrible, I mean horrible. Chicago fans, I see you on Twitter. I see you on Instagram. Y'all calling for his head to get the hell out of Chicago. The amount of times where you guys basically said all he called you for, you guys, was screen passes and little dig routes for the receivers. That's all the receivers were allowed to run, and halfback dives. And I'm not gonna lie, as a Browns fan, if my coaches was only calling those plays the entire time, I'd rip my hair out too. Matt Eberflus is not the guy. I don't think he's gonna be the guy in Chicago. I think if they don't make the playoffs this year, it's gonna come down to a very serious question of, do they continue on into 2025 still with Matt Eberflus, or do they just fire him at that point? And when you have a rookie quarterback, you want to have some job security within your coach to know, me and him, we're going to work this out and we're going to make this work. We're going to build this franchise that I know I have my coach there for me for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And also, like I said a minute ago, Chicago has never been a good team for quarterbacks. Quarterbacks go there to die. That's just the way it is in the NFL. If you want to be successful, don't go to Chicago. You go to Chicago, your career is going to die. It was like that for a long time with the Cleveland. Since then, Baker Mayfield kind of did good. Deshaun Watson looks like he's kind of finally getting things under bearing there. When it comes to Chicago, like, you look at the quarterbacks they've tried. Mitch Trubisky did not do good. He went to kind of Buffalo to become a backup. He got a little bit better. I'd realize in Pittsburgh he wasn't the greatest thing ever, but when it came to Chicago, he looked like he could have been something, but he was not it. Now, as a reasoning why I think Chicago is going to take him, and the thing I think all these people that are saying Caleb Williams have no choice if Chicago decides to pick him, here's my understanding of why I think it would make sense for both sides to do this. Number one, say Caleb Williams decides, I don't want to be there, and the Chicago Bears say, fuck you, I'm still going to take you, you're going to play quarterback for us. And what happens if he decides, no, I'm not playing for you? He decides to pull Eli Manning and say, don't draft me, I'm not playing for you. If you draft me, I'm not playing. Then you just wasted a first-round pick on a guy that doesn't want to play for you. He's not going to sign the rookie contract. He's never going to play for you. Then you basically just wasted the #1 overall pick on a quarterback that's not even wanting to play for you. Now, I'm not sure if there's like fines or anything you can do to like fine him for money or whatever, or try to get him in trouble for not playing, even though he didn't even sign a rookie contract. I would just say this. People have talked about Caleb Williams. Does he have the power? Does he have the control of being able to voice his opinion on where he wants to play in the NFL? I think he does. I truly think he has that much of a kind of publicity and like a famous like status of how good he is at football. I think he can kind of pick and choose where he wants to play. And if he voices his opinion and he pretty much just says, I don't want to play in Chicago, Chicago needs to be smart and trade that pick. Now let's move over to the side of things where I think Washington would be the best spot for him. Like I already said a couple of times in this video, Cliff Kingsbury was the quarterback's coach for Caleb Williams at USC for the 2 years he was there. He has now been hired to be the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders under head coach Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, new head coach, he's going to be there. He's pretty much got job security. He'll be there. He'll be coaching that defense, getting the defense back on hopefully up to top 10 level status. Not only will he be going home to your hometown of, I guess, basically just living in DC area. I guess he was born and raised there. He played high school football there. He'll be able to go home, go play quarterback there, play football in front of all his family and friends, and he's got his former offensive coordinator, so it's like he's got a system that he's going to know how to run. I realize the offense, whenever it comes to Washington and Chicago, are a little bit similar. They both have some good receivers, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, and a couple of Jahan Dotson with Washington. Whereas Chicago, you got Darnell Mooney, you got DJ Moore, and you have Cole Kmet as a tight end position. But other than that, it's like you have your kind of like three main guys. But when it comes to depth, you don't really have much there. When it comes to Washington, I just named off 4 guys that can easily take over a game at any given point as long as they have the quarterback to get them the ball. Washington also has a run game. They got Brian Robinson, they got Antonio Gibson, they got some dudes. Their big problem is the offensive line has been struggling quite a bit the past couple years. And Sam Howell, I don't know how much longer he'd be able to fare with the offensive line. I feel like if Washington decided to keep moving along with the way the offensive line's been playing so far, Caleb Williams is going to get killed. And for those of you who do not know, back in college at USC, Caleb Williams was one of the most highest sacked quarterbacks in college football, so they're really going to need to fix the offensive line ASAP. Now, if they actually get the offensive line fixed and they can kind of get him some time to throw the ball, the way Caleb Williams plays, imagine him in front of Washington's crowd, that place would erupt. The other little underrated part as to why Washington is probably going to be the team to go after him, if not Caleb Williams, they're going to be going after a big splash move. They have a new ownership. They got guys like Joe Harris, I think, the name of the owner. They got Magic Johnson in there as a part ownership with the team. They want to make a splash. They want to go in and make something big happen. The thing that's going to hurt Washington is I realize they're only trading from number 2 to number 1, but they're going to have offers from Chicago's going to have offers from teams as high as like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, possibly wanting to trade the whole way up to number 1. Those teams are going to have to give up at least 3 number 1 picks, and then they're going to have to probably throw in some extra capital, like 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, 5th rounder, and maybe players. With Washington, it would make sense for them to probably just give up maybe 2 first-round picks, maybe like a Curtis Samuel, and then like a 3rd round pick, something like that, and maybe you can get the 1st round pick or get that number 1 overall pick. Going from 2 to 1, an offer like that would make sense. But when you stack that up against what other teams are going to have to be giving up, going, like I said, from the top 10, maybe even deeper into the draft, going the whole way up to number 1, they're going to have to give a haul to get that number 1 overall pick. And for Chicago, as the days go on, as the months go on, as we get closer to April, if nobody's traded for that number 1 overall pick so far, and we get to draft night and Chicago's sitting there thinking, well, we want to move on with Justin Fields, but nobody's taking this pick, and Washington calls them up and says, we're willing to give you this, and they're the only ones willing to give a draft reasonable with what they want, maybe they take that offer. But if another team, like I said, somebody up deep in the draft is willing to give the haul for Caleb Williams, Chicago better not turn their heads. Like, I think at this moment, they're probably going to wait till the combine happens. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to do anything at the combine. He's probably not going to throw. Maybe he'll run, but he's probably going to just do questions. He'll probably do all his work at the pro day. But after that, I think after the pro day, Chicago needs to have their mind made up on if they're going to be trading that number 1 overall pick. If they haven't traded the pick by then, we are pretty much confirmed that they're taking Caleb Williams. If they trade the number 1 pick before the pro days, then we pretty much can lock in and say, yep, Justin Fields the guy, and whoever gets that number 1 pick, we can start planning Caleb Williams' future around that. But I truly think whenever I looked at, like I said, Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, I think Justin Fields works better in Chicago. I think he's already bought into the whole city, the fan base loves him. They want him there. And when it comes to Caleb Williams, I think he would work out better in Washington. I think if he went to Chicago, his career would just die so damn quickly. I know there's going to be Chicago fans out there saying like, no, Caleb Williams, he's the guy. Usually we draft the bad quarterbacks and we don't draft the right ones. Caleb Williams, he's finally the guy and we're going to be the ones to take him. We can do this. Bro, you've been saying this for how long? Somehow, I feel like if you guys drafted Patrick Mahomes back in 2017, you probably would have fucked up his career too. Not trying to be a dickhead or anything, but I'm just telling you the truth. But other than that, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Hopefully you guys did go and enjoy today's video. If you did enjoy, as always, make sure you go and drop a like on today's video. Be very much appreciated if you do so. If you want to watch the entirety of today's video, thank you very much. And like I said, if you have a different opinion on where Caleb Williams is going to play, do you think he's going to play in Chicago? Do you think he's going to play in Washington? Some people have said he has the chance to possibly just go back to USC, play a senior season. I don't see that happening. Or do you just think he's going to go to a different NFL team? If there's a team outside the top 10 or somewhere in the top 10, like I said, a Vegas, maybe a Denver, somebody in the draft cap or draft range to possibly trade up for the number 1 overall pick. If you think anybody's going to trade up, Let me know your complete opinion about the whole draft, what you think is going to happen down in the comment section down below. Be more than welcome to talk about with you guys. If you're a fan of the content that I do poster and you want to go and hit that big red subscribe button, feel free to do so. And do not forget to hit that little notification bell to be notified the second I post. But without further ado, this has been Dylan Talk Sports. Have a great day. Peace.